I have the good fortune of having a family that likes to take photographs. That's my grandfather during the First World War. We will see a lot of him in this film. My great-grandmother in Esquimalt. The grandmother I never knew. She died in 1928. My grandmother and great-grandmother, with my aunt and my father, Stanley. Stan ended up in an orphanage when his mother died. As a teenager, he returned home to a new stepmother. He lasted a week and went to work in a logging camp. Stan sailed across the globe and joined the Royal Air Force before World War II. He enjoyed the faster pace of Europe and had no intention of returning home. I don't think he loved the war, but he loved the lifestyle that came with it. By 1947, he had been unceremoniously returned to Canada and was living on a small trawler in the Courtney Slough. He met my mother in a diner there. This is the earliest photo of Margaret I can find. The dock in Cayucit, 1948. Her family was poor. They didn't own a camera. She spent the first 15 years of her life on a sheep ranch, with no electricity or running water. She had no other children to play with, and got her education by correspondence. She lived with books and dreamed one day she would be a writer. That place today is known as Hallowell Park on Hornby Island in the Gulf of Georgia. That's me. My name is Leslie Stanley Charcot. I was born at the Esperanza Mission Hospital on the west coast of Vancouver Island in the 1950s. We lived under what would be considered third world conditions today, although I don't recall being cold or hungry. That's my big brother David. He circumnavigated Vancouver Island as a baby in the dead of winter. We learned to row boats before we learned to ride bicycles.
I stepped off the small gasoline boat that had brought me and the weekly mail from the steamship stop 6 miles away in the inlets of Cayucit Sound. I stumbled as the heels of my shoes caught in the rough planking of the wooden dock. A few feet away, the sea lion bobbed beside the float. Stan stepped from her deck, followed by Skipper, his red spaniel dog, to welcome me to my new life as a fisherman's wife. When I had first met Stan, I had been working in Courtney, an upper Vancouver Island town. At the time, he had owned a tiny 27-foot trawler and dreamed of owning something larger. In answer to those dreams, the Sea Lion had been built and launched in June of the previous year. Stan had dreamed of a good season with enough money to buy his father's share in the trawler so that we could marry. They got off to a late start, the fishing was poor, and in short, the season was a flop. That winter, there came to Courtney Slough fishermen who had trolled the previous summer off Cayucit on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Their stories of good catches there made Stan decide that he would go to Cayucit rather than north again. The 30-foot salmon trawler Sea Lion, which was to be my home for the next few years, was small, but because of her unusual construction, which placed her motor outside the cabin under a hatch on deck, she had roomy living quarters. Although I was never entirely free of a queasy feeling in the pit of my stomach, I thoroughly enjoyed the novelty of those days. It was a wonderful experience, one I would not have wanted to miss. That fall, Stan took a job as a fisheries patrolman. Each year, the fishery department hires men, generally fishermen, and charters their boats to assist the fishery officer in seeing that no infractions of the regulations occur during the autumn seining season. The patrolman, in addition to his duties as a guardian of the boundaries, must inspect the creeks and rivers of his area to estimate the type and number of fish that have reached the spawning grounds.